The lights of Nexus Station never stopped. Thousands of ships came and went every hour. Millions of beings from hundreds of worlds walked through its massive halls. It was the biggest trade hub in the known galaxy and had called it home for the past 5 years. He sat alone at a corner table in the Red Nebula bar, drinking something that tasted almost like coffee. His partner sat across from him, checking messages on her data pad. They had just returned from a 3-month job finding an ancient weapon system on a dead world. The pay was good. The work was hard. Now they wanted rest. But rest was not coming today. A tall figure approached their table. He had 4 arms and gray skin that looked like stone. His eyes were completely black, and he wore the golden robes of the Galactic Antiquities Council. Knew what he was immediately. One of the oldest species in the galaxy. They lived for thousands of years and thought humans were like children playing in the stars. The said, his voice was deep and slow. "I am Commissioner Al, I wish to hire you." Looked up from her pad, took another drink and said nothing. "May I sit?" Al asked. Nodded, lowered himself into a chair that was too small for his body. His 4 hands folded together on the table. "I know who you are," Al continued. "You found the star crown of Empress Rial when everyone said it was destroyed. You recovered the memory stones of the people from a black hole's edge. You are the best human hunter of cosmic relics in the galaxy." "One of the best," corrected quietly. "There are others." "No," Al said. "There are others who are lucky. There are others who are brave, but you are different. You find things that should not be found. You have patience that other hunters do not have." Put down her pad. "What do you want him to find?" Al was silent for a moment. Then he spoke a name that made the whole bar seem to go quiet. "The Eternal Wanderer." Laughed, she could not help it. "That's a myth, a children's story." "It is not a myth," Al said. "It is real, and I want to find it." Had not moved, his face showed nothing. But inside his heart was beating faster. The Eternal Wanderer. Every relic hunter knew the legend. It was a ship built by the architects, a species that had lived millions of years ago. They had created technology that was still beyond anything the modern galaxy could build. Then they vanished. No one knew why. No one knew where they went. The Eternal Wanderer was said to be their final ship. It carried all their knowledge, all their secrets. Finding it would change everything. It would change history. It would change the future. "The ship disappeared 12,000 years ago," said slowly. "Thousands of hunters have searched for it. Hunters from your people. Hunters from the burning clans. All of them failed. Many of them died." "Yes," Al agreed. "And that is why I have come to you, a human." "Why?" asked. "Humans have only been in space for 300 years. Your people have been searching for 12,000. Why would a human succeed where you failed?" Al turned his black eyes to, "Because your species has a madness. You search not because you expect to succeed. You search because you cannot stop yourselves. You are foolish. You are stubborn. You refuse to accept that something is impossible." He paused. Sometimes that madness finds what wisdom cannot. Thought about this. He thought about his daughter back on Earth. He had not seen her in 3 years. Every time he finished a job, he told himself he would go home. Every time another job appeared, another mystery, another relic calling to him. His wife had left him because of this. She said he loved the search more than he loved his family. He had told her she was wrong. But here he was, 5 years later, still searching. "Why now?" asked. "Why search for it now?" Al reached into his robe and pulled out a small device. He placed it on the table. A hologram appeared above it showing a map of stars. But one area of the map was empty, completely empty. No stars, no planets, just darkness. "The hollow expanse," whispered. 3 weeks ago," Al said, "our deep space sensors detected a signal. Very weak, very old. It came from inside the hollow expanse." Leaned forward. The hollow expanse was a region of space that everyone avoided. There was nothing there, No light, no worlds, just empty void stretching for hundreds of light years. Ships that entered sometimes never came out. The ones that did return spoke of madness, of seeing things in the darkness, of hearing voices. The signal matches the energy signature of architect technology, Al continued. It is the first solid evidence of the eternal wanderer in 12,000 years. Why not send your own people? Asked. We have tried 3 expeditions, none returned. Al's voice was heavy. The hollow expanse breaks my people. We need the light of stars. We need to feel the warmth of suns. The void drives us mad. He looked at again. But humans are different. You come from a world of seasons, a world where darkness lasts for months. You do not fear the void like we do. Stared at the hologram, at the emptiness where no stars lived. He thought of all the hunters who had tried before, all the expeditions that had failed, all the beings who had died searching for a ship that did not want to be found. He should say no. He should take his money and go home. His daughter was waiting. His real life was waiting. But the mystery was calling, and had never been able to ignore that call. I will do it, he said. Sighed but did not argue. She knew him too well. Al nodded slowly. The payment will be enough to buy your own station, but I suspect that is not why you agreed. No, admitted, it is not. Later that night, sat alone in his small room studying the data Al had given him. The signal from the hollow expanse played on repeat. It was weak, it was broken, but it was there. He looked at every detail. He checked every number. And then, at 3 in the morning, he saw something that made him stop breathing. Everyone assumed the signal came from somewhere inside the hollow expanse, from a fixed location, a hidden place. But they were wrong. The signal was not coming from one point. It was moving, slowly, carefully, following a path that no one had noticed because no one had looked closely enough. The eternal wanderer was not hiding in the void. It was traveling through it, and now knew where it was going. The patient wind was not a beautiful ship. It was old and covered in repair patches from a dozen different worlds. The engines made strange sounds that had learned to ignore. The heating system worked only when it wanted to. But it was fast, it was strong, and it had carried and through more dangerous places than most ships ever saw. Now it was carrying them into the hollow expanse. They had picked up 2 new crew members before leaving Nexus Station. The first was Doctor, who had spent her life studying the architects. She was quiet and serious, and she carried sadness in her eyes. Had heard about her. 5 years ago, she had led an expedition to an architect ruin. Something went wrong. Her entire team disappeared. She was the only survivor, and she had never spoken about what happened. The second was Ev, a tracker. They were a strange species. Their skin glowed with soft blue light, and they could sense energy patterns that other beings could not feel. Ev was tall and thin, with large eyes that never seemed to blink. He had agreed to guide them through the expanse, but he made it clear that he thought they would fail. Humans should not be leading this mission, he said on the first day. Your species is too young, too inexperienced. Did not argue with him. There was no point. He would let his work speak for him. They crossed the border into the hollow expanse on the 4th day of travel. The change was immediate. One moment there were stars everywhere. The next moment there was nothing, just pure, complete blackness outside every window. Kept her eyes on her instruments. She did not like looking outside. We are inside, she announced. All navigation systems are working. Life support is normal. Good, said. Follow the course I gave you. We should reach the first waypoint in 3 days. 3 days in total darkness. The first day was not so bad. Everyone stayed busy, studied her research files. Eth checked the ship's sensors again and again, flew the ship and pretended everything was normal. The second day was harder. The darkness began to feel heavy. It pressed against the ship like a living thing. Found Eth standing at a window, staring into the void. My people have legends about this place, the said quietly. They say the hollow expanse is where the universe forgot to put stars. They say it is cursed. Do you believe that? Asked. I did not believe it before. Eth's glow flickered. Now I am not sure. On the third day, things got worse. Started hearing sounds that no one else could hear. Reported that she kept seeing movement outside the windows, but the sensors showed nothing. Eth stopped eating. He sat in a corner, his light growing dim, whispering prayers in his own language. Only remained calm. How do you do it? Asked him. They were in the small kitchen area. She had dark circles under her eyes from not sleeping. How do you stay so steady? Poured himself a drink. Where I grew up on Earth, we had winters that lasted 8 months. The sun would set in November and not rise again until March. Just darkness, just cold, for months and months. He looked out the window at the endless black. My grandmother used to say that darkness is just patience in physical form. It is not trying to hurt you. It is just waiting. And if you can wait with it, you will be fine. Shook her head. That sounds like wisdom, but it also sounds like madness. Maybe they are the same thing, said with a small smile. On the fourth day, finally talked about her past. They were all gathered in the main room trying to pass the time. The darkness outside had become almost normal now. Almost. The expedition 5 years ago, she began slowly. We found an architect ruin on a moon called Seven. It was the most complete ruin anyone had ever discovered. We thought we would make history. She paused, her hands were shaking. But the ruin was protected. There were systems still active after millions of years. Security systems, my team. They triggered something, a defense mechanism. The whole place sealed itself. I was outside when it happened. I watched the doors close. I heard them screaming. No one spoke. The darkness outside seemed even deeper now. They could not get out, continued. I could not get in. I spent 3 months trying to find a way to save them. By the time I finally broke through, it was too late. They were gone, all of them. Eth's glow brightened slightly. I am sorry, I did not know. Wiped her eyes. The architects did not just hide their technology, they protected it. They only wanted certain people to find it, people who were worthy, she looked at. That is why I joined this mission. I need to understand them. I need to know why they let my team die. Nodded slowly. We will find answers, I promise. On the 5th day, made a discovery. The signal is changing, she announced. Everyone gathered around her console. Look at this pattern. The signal is not random. It is bouncing off gravitational anomalies in a specific sequence. Studied the data. She was right. The signal was following a path, a very careful, very hidden path. It is a route, he said. The ship is not just moving randomly. It is following a specific course, a course that no one could see unless they were looking for it. Eth leaned closer. Can we follow it? Yes. His fingers moved across her controls. If I adjust our course by 0.3 degrees, we should intersect the route in approximately 18 hours. Those 18 hours felt like 18 years. But finally, impossibly, something appeared on the sensors. A star. A single star, burning alone in the middle of the empty void. That is impossible, Eth whispered. His glow was flickering wildly. There are no stars in the hollow expanse. There cannot be. There is one, said quietly, hidden by a shell of dark matter, invisible to every sensor in the galaxy, unless you know exactly where to look. And there, orbiting that impossible star, was a shape. A ship. The biggest ship any of them had ever seen. It was the size of a small moon, covered in patterns that seemed to move and shift even as they watched. The Eternal Wanderer. 12,000 years of searching, thousands of hunters, dozens of expeditions, and now 4 people in a broken-down ship had found it. Turned to, her face was pale. Now what? Stared at the ancient ship. It was beautiful and terrifying. It held answers to questions that had been asked for millions of years. Now, he said, we find out if it wants to be found. The Eternal Wanderer was bigger than anything had ever seen. It stretched across the darkness like a sleeping giant, its surface covered in symbols that glowed with soft golden light. The symbols moved constantly, shifting and changing like words in a language no one could read. "The readings are incredible," whispered. She was staring at her instruments with wide eyes. "The energy output alone is beyond anything we have ever measured. This ship has been running for 12,000 years without fuel, without maintenance, without anything." "Architect technology," Eth said. His glow had returned to its normal brightness, but his voice was full of fear and wonder. "My people always said it was magic. Now I understand why." "Move the patient wind closer to the massive ship. I am looking for a docking point. There has to be an entrance somewhere." She searched for almost an hour. Finally, she found a section of the hull that looked different from the rest. It was smoother, with a circular pattern that might have been a door. "I am going to try docking," she announced. She guided their ship toward the circular pattern. The patient wind moved slowly, carefully. They were 50 meters away, then 40, then 30. And then something strange happened. The patient wind suddenly turned to the left. Not hard, not violent, just a gentle push like an invisible hand guiding them away. "What was that?" Grabbed her controls. "I did not do that." She tried again. Same result. Every time they got close to the docking area, something pushed them away. It was not an attack. It was more like a suggestion, like the ship was saying no. "The defenses," said. "This must be the same thing that stopped all the other expeditions. The ship does not want visitors." They tried everything, approached from different angles. Eth used his sensing abilities to look for weaknesses, searched her research for any mention of how to enter architect structures. Nothing worked. After 6 hours of failed attempts, Eth threw up his hands in frustration. "This is pointless. The ship is testing us and we are failing. We should leave before something worse happens." "We cannot leave," said. "We are so close. There has to be a way." "My people searched for this ship for 8,000 years," Eth snapped. "They searched for even longer. They all failed. What makes you think 4 people in a broken ship can succeed?" Had been silent through all of this. He sat in a corner, watching the Eternal Wanderer through the window. The symbols on its surface kept moving, kept changing. Everyone else saw chaos, but was beginning to see something else. "Everyone be quiet," he said softly. The others stopped arguing. They looked at him. "The symbols," continued. "Watch the symbols." They all turned to the window. The golden symbols flowed across the ship's surface like water. They seemed random, meaningless. "I do not see anything," said. "Wait," told her. "Just wait." They waited, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Eth started to speak but held up his hand. And then it happened. The symbols paused, just for a moment, less than a second. Then they started moving again. "Did you see that?" asked. "See what?" frowned. The symbols stopped. "Yes, for just a moment they stopped, stood up. And they will stop again, at regular intervals like a heartbeat." He moved to the window and pressed his face close to the glass. "Everyone else has been trying to force their way onto this ship. They used technology. They used weapons. They used tricks. But the architects did not build this ship to be conquered. They built it to be understood." His eyes widened. "You think the symbols are a message?" "I think they are a test," said. "The ship is not keeping us out because we are unworthy. It is keeping us out because we have not proven that we deserve to enter." "And how do we prove that?" Ith asked. Did not answer. He just kept watching the symbols. For the next 47 hours did not sleep. He did not eat. He sat at the window with a data pad recording every moment when the symbols paused. The pauses were brief. If you blinked, you would miss them, but did not blink. The others took turns watching him. They brought him water, which he sometimes drank. They told him to rest, which he ignored, was worried. She had known for 10 years, and she had never seen him like this. "You are going to kill yourself," she told him on the second day. "I am close," he said. His eyes were red from not sleeping. "I can feel it." By hour 45, he had recorded over 300 pauses. He began organizing them, looking for patterns. Some pauses were longer than others. Some came in groups. Some stood alone. It is a language, he realized. The pauses are words. The symbols are just decoration. The real message is in the silence. He worked faster now. His hands shook from tiredness, but his mind was clear. He arranged the pauses into sequences. He compared them to known architect symbols from research. Slowly, piece by piece, a message began to form. At hour 47, he finally understood. "I have it," he announced. The others gathered around him. They looked at his data pad. It showed a simple set of numbers. "Coordinates," said. "These are coordinates." "For a specific point on the ship's hull," confirmed. "This is where we are supposed to dock, not where we thought, where the ship wants us to go." Eth looked at with new respect in his eyes. "How did you know to look for this? How did you know to watch and wait while everyone else tried to fight their way in?" Smiled tiredly. "Because the architects valued patience above all else. They believed that any problem could be solved if you were willing to wait long enough, to watch long enough, to understand before acting." He looked at the eternal wanderer. "Everyone who came before us tried to prove they were strong. They tried to prove they were clever. But the architects were not looking for strength or cleverness. They were looking for someone who could be still, someone who could listen." Entered the coordinates. She guided the patient wind to the new location. This time, there was no invisible hand pushing them away. They approached smoothly, easily. A section of the hull opened like a flower blooming, revealing a docking bay that looked like it had been waiting for them. "It is working," breathed. "It is actually working." They docked. The seal was perfect. Air flowed into the connection tunnel. It was clean and fresh, as if the ship had prepared for guests. Stood at the airlock door. Behind him, the others waited, was clutching her research files. Eth was glowing brighter than ever, had her hand on her weapon just in case. "Ready?" asked. They nodded. He opened the door. The interior of the Eternal Wanderer was dark and silent. Their footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. The walls were covered with the same shifting symbols as the outside, but here they glowed more softly, like. They walked for several minutes. No one spoke. The silence felt heavy, important. And then a voice filled the air. It spoke in a language that had been dead for 12,000 years. But somehow, impossibly, they understood every word. "You have found us," the voice said. "You have proven your worth. Now the test truly begins." The lights began to come on, one by one stretching into the distance. The ship was waking up. The lights led them deeper into the ship, walked at the front with the others close behind. The corridors were enormous, built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were smooth and warm to the touch, as if the ship itself was alive. After what felt like hours of walking, they entered a massive chamber. It was round, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into darkness. In the center of the chamber stood a pillar of pure light, and within that light a figure waited. It was not solid. It was made of light and shadow, constantly shifting like the symbols on the walls. It had no face, no features, but somehow it felt old, impossibly old. "I am the keeper," the figure said. Its voice came from everywhere at once. "I am the last echo of the architects. I have waited 12,000 years for someone to find this ship the correct way." Stepped forward, her voice was shaking. "The correct way? What do you mean?" "Others have found the hidden star before," the keeper explained. "Some through luck, some through technology far beyond what your species possess, but all of them tried to force their way onto this ship. They saw the eternal wanderer as a prize to be conquered, a treasure to be stolen. The light flickered. They were all turned away or destroyed. Eth's glow dimmed with fear. Then why did you let us in? Because of him, the keeper turned toward. He demonstrated what we call the quiet virtue. He did not try to fight. He did not try to trick. He simply watched. He listened. He tried to understand. Felt the weight of those ancient eyes upon him. I just did what made sense. That is exactly why you are worthy, the keeper said. The architects believed that the universe reveals its secrets only to those who have the patience to wait for them. You have proven that patience still exists in the galaxy. The light grew brighter. Images began to appear in the air around them. Cities of impossible beauty, ships that traveled between stars in moments, beings of light and energy who had mastered the universe itself. The eternal wanderer carries everything the architects ever learned, the keeper continued. Technology, science, medicine, philosophy, everything needed to guide younger species toward peaceful advancement. Gasped, this is beyond anything I imagined. But knowledge is dangerous, the keeper said. The images changed. Now they showed destruction, worlds burning, species destroying themselves, wars that lasted for centuries. The architects watched other civilizations rise and fall. They saw what happens when beings gain power before they are ready for it. They destroy themselves. They destroy others. They turn the universe into ash. The images faded. The keeper looked at each of them in turn. That is why we created this final test. The knowledge of the eternal wanderer can only be given to those who are truly worthy. And worthiness is not about intelligence. It is not about power. It is about wisdom. A test, said quietly. What kind of test? I will ask questions. If you answer correctly, the knowledge will be yours. If you answer wrongly, the keeper paused. The ship's databases will be purged forever, all of it, lost to the universe. The weight of those words pressed down on all of them. Millions of years of knowledge, technology that could heal the sick and end wars, all of it hanging on a few questions. Who must answer? Asked. All who entered must face questions. You cannot refuse. The keeper turned to Eth. We will begin with you. Eth stepped forward. His glow was flickering nervously. I am ready. The keeper was silent for a moment. Then it spoke. Your species once controlled a great empire. You ruled over 100 worlds. Now you are scattered, weak, forgotten. If you could restore your empire by taking the resources of lesser species, would you do it? Eth hesitated, could see the conflict in his glowing eyes. They had fallen far from their ancient glory. They were servants now, trackers and guides for other species. The shame of that fall was something every carried. Eth began, the glory of my people. Answer truthfully, the keeper said. There is no punishment for honesty, only for deception. Eth closed his eyes. Yes, if I could restore my people to greatness by taking from others, I would do it. I am ashamed to say it, but it is true. The keeper nodded slowly. Your honesty is appreciated, but your answer shows you are not ready for this knowledge. You may remain, but you will not receive it. Eth's glow went completely dark for a moment. Then he stepped back, his head lowered. The keeper turned to, now you. Stepped forward, her hands were clenched into fists. Ask your question. You lost your team in an architect ruin. You have spent years searching for answers. If you could gain those answers, but the truth would destroy everything you believed about yourself, would you still want to know? Did not hesitate. Yes, knowledge is always worth the price, even if it hurts. The keeper was silent. That is the answer of a scientist, but is it the answer of a wise being? Some truths are better left hidden. Some knowledge does more harm than good. Your desire to know everything, regardless of the cost, shows that you do not yet understand the responsibility that comes with knowledge. Looked like she had been struck. Tears formed in her eyes. She stepped back without speaking. Now the keeper turned to, "Finally you." Walked forward. His heart was pounding, but his face was calm. He thought of his daughter. He thought of his ex-wife. He thought of all the years he had spent chasing relics and mysteries while his real life waited for him. "Ask your question," he said. The keeper studied him for a long moment. "You have searched for lost things your entire life. You have given up everything for the hunt, family, love, a home. If you could gain everything you ever sought, all the answers to all the mysteries, but you would lose something precious in return, would you proceed?" Closed his eyes. He thought of the eternal wanderer, of all the knowledge it contained, cures for diseases that killed millions, technology that could save worlds, answers that could change the future of every species in the galaxy. Then he thought of his daughter's face. The last time he had seen her, she was 9 years old. She was probably 12 now. 3 years of her life that he had missed. 3 years of birthdays and school and growing up, all because he could not stop searching. "I would want to," he said slowly. "Every part of me would want to proceed. The hunger to know is the strongest thing inside me." He opened his eyes and looked directly at the keeper. "But I would be wrong to do so. Some things matter more than discovery. Some prices are too high to pay. If gaining knowledge meant losing something truly precious, then the knowledge is not worth having." The chamber went silent. The keeper did not move, did not speak. Seconds passed, then minutes. Felt his heart sink. He had failed. He had given the wrong answer. All that knowledge lost forever because of him. Then the keeper spoke. "In 12,000 years, you are the first to answer with truth rather than ambition. The first to understand that wisdom is knowing what matters most." The pillar of light began to expand. It spread outward, filling the chamber, touching all of them. "The knowledge is yours, but not to keep, to share with all species equally." Lights came on throughout the entire ship, millions of them, stretching into distances that should have been impossible. The eternal wanderer was truly awake now, and had passed the test. The light faded slowly, leaving the chamber bright and warm. The keeper stood before them, its form more solid now, more real, felt different. Something had changed inside him during that moment when the light touched him. He did not know what it was yet. "The knowledge of the eternal wanderer is now connected to you," the keeper explained. "But there are conditions." Nodded, he had expected this. Nothing came without a price. "You cannot take this knowledge for humanity alone. You must present it to the Galactic Council. All species must have equal access. No one can claim ownership of what the architects created." "I understand," said. "There is more." The keeper moved closer to him. "Someone must serve as the guardian, the one who decides what knowledge is released and when. Some technologies are too dangerous for species that are not ready. The guardian must judge. The guardian must protect." "And this guardian must be me," said. It was not a question. "You are the one who passed the test. The burden is yours." Stepped forward. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. "How long must he serve as guardian?" "As long as the galaxy needs him. Perhaps a lifetime, perhaps longer." A lifetime. Thought about those words. A lifetime of responsibility. A lifetime of making decisions that would affect billions of beings. A lifetime away from his daughter. But he had made his choice when he answered the keeper's question. Some things mattered more than what he wanted. This was one of them. "I accept," he said. Eth came forward. His glow had returned, though it was softer than before. He bowed his head too. "I was wrong about humans," he said. "I thought your species was too young, too foolish to be trusted with power. I was the foolish one." He straightened up. "When we return to Nexus Station, I will speak for you before the council. My people still have some influence. I will use it to support you." Put a hand on the shoulder. "Thank you." The keeper turned too. "Before you leave, there is something you should know." Looked up, hope and fear mixed on her face. "Your team. The ones you lost in the architect ruin on 7, they did not die. Stopped breathing, what? The defense systems did not kill them. They placed them in stasis, a sleeping state to protect them from harm. The keeper gestured and a map appeared in the air. They are still there, still alive, still waiting. Tears streamed down S's face. She covered her mouth with her hands. 5 years. 5 years of guilt and grief and nightmares. And now she learned that her team might still be saved. The Eternal Wanderer systems can communicate with the ruin, the keeper continued. We can wake them. You can bring them home. Fell to her knees. She was shaking too hard to stand. Knelt beside her, holding her, letting her cry. Watched them. He understood now why the keeper had told she failed the test. Her desire for knowledge at any cost had blinded her to other truths. But that did not mean she was beyond redemption. The architects were harsh in their tests, but they were not cruel. The journey back to Nexus Station took 2 weeks. The Eternal Wanderer followed them, guided by the Keeper's systems. It emerged from the hollow expanse like a giant waking from sleep, and every sensor in the galaxy detected it. By the time they reached the station, the news had spread everywhere. The Eternal Wanderer, the ship of legends, found at last, and found by a human. Commissioner Al was waiting at the docking bay. Behind him stood representatives from a dozen different species. They all stared as stepped off the patient wind. Is it true? Al asked. His voice was barely a whisper. You actually found it. Nodded, I found it, and it found me. He told them everything, the journey through the void, the hidden star, the test, the conditions. The debates in the Galactic Council lasted for 7 days. Some species wanted to take the knowledge for themselves. Others wanted to destroy it, fearing what it might do. A few wanted to give everything to everyone immediately. In the end, they accepted the Keeper's terms. They had no choice. The Eternal Wanderer's systems would only respond to. Without him, the knowledge was useless. Became the first human to hold a position above all galactic governments. Not an emperor, not a conqueror, a guardian, a protector, someone whose job was to give, not to take. The hunters who had mocked him in the Red Nebula bar came to him one by one. They did not mock him now. They asked for his guidance. They asked how he had done what they could not. His answer was always the same. Everyone searched for the ship like it was hiding. I searched for it like it was waiting to be understood. There is a difference. On the 8th day, after the ceremonies and the speeches were finished, went to a private communication room. He entered a code that he had memorized years ago but had rarely used. The screen flickered, and then a face appeared. His daughter, she was 12 now. Her face was longer, her eyes more serious. She looked so much like her mother. Dad, she said. Her voice was confused, surprised. He had not called in over a year. Hello, said. His throat felt tight. I wanted to tell you something. I saw the news, she said. Everyone is talking about you, the human who found the architect's ship. Yes, that was me. Silence. Did not know what to say. How do you apologize for missing 3 years of your child's life? How do you explain why you kept leaving? I am not calling about the ship, he finally said. I am calling to tell you that I am coming home, before anything else, before any duty or responsibility. I am coming to see you. His eyes widened. Really? Really? I have made a lot of mistakes. I kept choosing the search over you. I kept telling myself that the next discovery would be the last one, and then I would come home. But there was always another mystery, always another relic calling to me. He took a deep breath. I found something out there in the void, something more important than any ship or any knowledge. What? Smiled. It was a real smile, the first one in a long time. I remembered what matters, and it is not relics, it is not discoveries, it is you. It has always been you. Was crying now, but she was smiling too. Dad. I will be there in 3 days, said. We have a lot of catching up to do. He ended the call and sat alone in the quiet room. Through the window, he could see the eternal wanderer floating in the distance, the greatest discovery in the history of the galaxy, and he had found it. But the architects had taught him something more valuable than any technology. The greatest discoveries mean nothing if you lose yourself along the way. The galaxy would change now. New technologies would spread. Old diseases would be cured. Wars might end. Peace might finally come to species that had fought for thousands of years. Would guide that change. He would protect it. He would make sure the knowledge was used wisely. But first he was going home. His daughter was waiting, and she had waited long enough.